World's oldest pyramid, in Indonesia. A study draws skepticism. The study, under investigation by its publisher, has fueled a dispute over the age of a partially excavated site and prompted warnings about the dangers of nationalist mythmaking. In a mountainous corner of Indonesia lies a hill, dotted with stone terraces, where people come from around the country to hold Islamic and Hindu rituals. Some say the site has a mystical air, or even that it might hold buried treasure. The partially excavated site, Gunung Padang, is a relaxing place to spend an afternoon. It's also at the center of a raging debate. Archaeologists say that the hill is a dormant volcano and that ceramics recovered there so far suggest that humans have been using the site for several hundred years or more. But some Indonesians, including an earthquake geologist and a president who left office in 2014, have suggested that the site may have been built far earlier by an as yet undiscovered ancient civilization. Their narrative has spread for more than a decade within the country but not very far beyond it, until recently. In 2022, a Netflix documentary series, Ancient Apocalypse, drew on the geologist's research for an episode about Gunung Padang. And in October, the geologist published an article in an international scientific journal that has fueled an international dispute over questions of science, ethics and ancient history. Archaeologists say the study's most contentious conclusion, that Gunung Padang may be the oldest pyramid in the world, because its deepest layer appears to have been sculpted by humans up to 27,000 years ago, is problematic because it is not based on physical evidence. Indonesia had no history of pyramid construction, they say, and humans in the Paleolithic era, which ended more than 10,000 years ago, could not have constructed pyramids. The pyramids of Giza in Egypt are only about 4,500 years old. The study's New Jersey-based publisher says it is now conducting an internal investigation, meaning that the journal is examining concerns shared by the archaeological community. Several archaeologists have aired their concerns publicly, saying the study is not worthy of publication, and that the geologists' claim that the hill was built by humans just doesn't make sense. In response, the study's lead author, the earthquake geologist Danny Hillman Natawijaja, says it has been misunderstood. His supporters include Graham Hancock, the British journalist who starred in the Netflix series and has argued, to his own critics, that archaeologists should be more open to theories that challenge academic orthodoxy. This judge, jury and executioner model of archaeology, where they can define what is and what is not evidence, what is and is not acceptable as evidence, isn't helpful in the long term for the progress of human knowledge, Mr. Hancock said in a telephone interview. Gold in that hill. Gunung Padang lies near the city of Bandung on Java, Indonesia's most populous island. Excavation began in the early 1980s, said Lutfi Yandri, an archaeologist with the Bandung provincial government. Young Indonesians inspired by quixotic efforts to discover lost pyramids in Bosnia later promoted the idea that pointy hills could be hiding lost pyramids, Mr. Lutfi said. President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono's staff organized forums to explore that question, as well as unproven speculation that Gunung Padang might contain buried treasure. Archaeologists pushed back from the start. But Mr. Yudhoyono's administration continued to finance excavation work at Gunung Padang, and he said after visiting in 2014, near the end of his 10-year term in office, that it could be the largest prehistoric building in the world. The pyramid narrative has some nationalistic edge to it, and it's backed by a former president, said Noel Hidalgo Tan, an archaeologist at the Southeast Asian Regional Center for Archaeology and Fine Arts in Bangkok. That's why it's a myth that refuses to die, he said. Mr. Yudhoyono's assistant referred questions to Andi Arief, who once organized forums about Gunung Padang as a member of the president's staff. Mr. Arief responded to an inquiry but did not make himself available for an interview. Science or illusion? Mr. Natawijaja, The geologist who led the October study said that he began researching the site in 2011. At the time, he was studying an active fault in the area and noticed that Gunung Padang's pointy shape made it stand out in a landscape of eroded hillsides. President Joko Widodo cut off financing for the research after assuming office in 2014. Mr. Natawijaja later published his findings in a recent edition of Archaeological Prospection. The study's methods and principles are the same ones that he would use to analyze earthquakes, he said in a Zoom interview. I'm just changing the subject from active faults to pyramids, he said. Several archaeologists said the study's major problem is that it dated the human presence at Gunung Padang based on radiocarbon measurements of soil from drilling samples, not of artifacts recovered from the site. The lesson is that radiocarbon dates are not magic, and have important caveats around their interpretation, the archaeologist Rebecca Bradley wrote in a 2016 critique of Mr. Natawijaja's preliminary findings. She said in an email that his recently published study struck her as a more organized recapitulation of the same old stuff. Mr. Tan, the archaeologist in Bangkok, described the study's attempt to link the soil's age to human activity as its biggest logical fallacy. The soil's age is not surprising because soil accumulates over time and deeper layers tend to be older, he added. But it's not soil that is tied to construction activity. It's not soil that's tied to, say, a fire pit, or soil that's tied to a burial. It's just soil, he said. Ceramics and other evidence from the upper layers of Gunung Padang indicates that humans were there as early as the 12th or 13th centuries, and that they built structures atop natural rock formations, said Mylin Joa Bonitz, an archaeologist who has conducted research in Indonesia. There could have been some people before, but they didn't leave anything that we can date, so far, said Professor Joa Bonitz, who teaches at Humboldt University in Berlin. Harry Truman Simanjuntak, an Indonesian archaeologist, said he also saw the study's pyramid claim as unsubstantiated. There are always scientists who are illusionists and practice pseudoscience, seeking knowledge that is not based on data, he said. Under investigation. The internal investigation of the archaeological prospection paper was confirmed by Wiley, the journal's publisher. Eileen G. Ernenwine, a co-editor of the journal, declined an interview request. In an email, Mr. Natawijaja defended his work and said that the investigation concerned a matter of scientific disagreement. Soil samples were legitimate evidence for assessing human involvement at Gunung Padang, he added, in part because the soil used by ancient builders was used to encase human-built structures. The rigorous peer-reviewed publication process of our findings in a reputable journal underscores the scientific validity and merit of our work, he wrote. Mr. Hancock, who described himself on Ancient Apocalypse as enemy number one to archaeologists, said that the program had surely contributed to the level of vituperation and attack that Mr. Natawijaja now faces over the study. In 2022, the Society for American Archaeology said in an open letter to Netflix and the show's production company, ITN, that the series devalues the archaeological profession on the basis of false claims and disinformation, an argument Mr. Hancock vigorously refuted. Netflix and ITN declined to comment for this article. Mr. Hancock has argued that archaeologists should not dismiss the potential existence of lost ancient civilizations, in part because so much land was submerged when the last ice age ended roughly 11,700 years ago. To say not enough work has been done yet, more work needs to be done to settle this matter. That's fair enough, Mr. Hancock said of the recent study. But to basically rubbish the whole thing from the outset and say that this is a preposterous claim that flies in the face of everything we know about the past. That's not helpful. On a recent afternoon at Gunung Padang, caretakers of the site said that Mr. Natawijaja's research supports what their ancestors have always said, that the site is the handiwork of an ancient civilization. Some people have reported seeing mysterious visions of prehistoric figures there, they added. We are confident that this is man-made, not natural, one of the caretakers, Zainal Arifin, said over a cup of sweetened coffee near the site's information center. President Joko's administration is mostly, but not entirely, staying out of the fray. Hilmar Farid, the Director General of Culture at the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, said that the ministry was not involved in debates about Gunung Padang's age. But he also said the latest research on the site is apparently inadequate to support the theory that this is a human-made pyramid. From the perspective of someone like me, who has to mobilize resources to support certain activities, he said, this is certainly the last priority. A prehistoric pyramid may have just rewritten human history, scientists claim. The Pyramid of Gunung Padang in Indonesia began construction in the deep past, a new study claims, and was built by an unknown ancient people. The pyramids of Egypt are staggeringly ancient. By the time of Cleopatra, they were already thousands of years old. But new research claims that another pyramid might have them all beat, potentially rewriting the history of human civilization. A team of researchers say in a new study that Gunung Padang, a pyramid in Indonesia, is at least 16,000 years old, roughly 10,000 years older than the Pyramid of Djoser in Egypt, long thought to be the world's oldest. The researchers, who hail from a collection of universities and institutions in Indonesia, say this makes Gunung Padang, potentially, the oldest pyramid in the world. In contrast, ancient Egyptians are believed to have begun construction on the Djoser pyramid roughly 5,000 years ago. The new research indicates that Gunung Padang is a highly complex, prehistoric pyramid that sheds light on the engineering capabilities of ancient civilizations during the Paleolithic era, also known as the Stone Age. Gunung Padang is a pyramid-shaped mound of terraced earth adorned with ancient stone built on top of an extinct volcano. It has long been acknowledged as an ancient site, but just how old has been a matter of some debate. Most estimates have placed it under 2,000 years old, but Indonesian geologist Danny Hilman Natawijaja, one of the study's co-authors, has long claimed that the site is much older. A decade ago, Natawijaja's claims caught the attention of then-President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, who set up a task force to study the pyramid, which included Natawijaja. Natawijaja's claims are controversial because they suggest an unknown Stone Age civilization created a monumental pyramid. People think the prehistoric age was primitive, but this monument proves that wrong, he said in 2013. Since then, the team's work has been revealed in piecemeal. Last month, they published a study in the peer-reviewed journal Archaeological Prospection that concludes the oldest parts of Gunung Padang are 27,000 to 16,000 years old, based on a range of tests including electrical resistivity tomography, ground-penetrating radar, seismic tomography, and core sampling among other methods. Using these techniques and aided by a landslide on one side of the structure that researchers say revealed a new and much earlier layer of the pyramid's construction, the paper's authors conclude that Gunung Padang was built in stages over millennia. The authors explain, according to the analysis, Unit 3, the oldest layer, is estimated to have been constructed during the remarkable timeframe of 25,000 to 14,000 BCE. Following this period, there was a hiatus spanning from 14,000 to 7,900 BCE before Unit 3 was ultimately buried between 7,900 and 6,100 BCE. Remarkably, approximately 2 millennia later, the construction of Unit 2 took place between 6,000 and 5,500 BCE. Another significant hiatus occurred from 5,500 to 2,100 BCE, followed by the construction of Unit 1 between 2000 and 1100 BCE. Lastly, An intriguing excavation of Unit 2 and subsequent soil fills transpired between 1393 and 1499 CE. The researchers write that, this study sheds light on advanced masonry skills dating back to the last glacial period, and challenges the conventional belief that human civilization and the development of advanced construction techniques emerged only during the warm period of the early Holocene or the beginning of the Neolithic, with the advent of agriculture approximately 11,000 years ago. Rather, they say that the evidence from Gunung Padang indicates that advanced construction techniques existed before agriculture was adopted. Nadawijaja and his co-authors write that more research is needed to uncover more information about Gunung Padang, and researchers from around the world will surely be eager to independently assess the claims included in the paper. Regardless, it's a fascinating proposal about what human existence was really like in the time before recorded history.